word is a lamp unto my feet and a light to guide my way.
We have three more forms of Hebrew poetry to cover, so let's get right to it. Number 2 is synthetic parallelism. In synthetic parallelism, an addition is made to the thought of the previous line or lines. Think of the line that follows as building on the first line or the lines above it. Read Psalm 38 and verse 13 and notice this. Like a deaf man, but in addition, like one who cannot speak. In that day, a deaf man could not speak if he had never heard speech. So the second line has added to the condition of the first line. The psalmist referred to the desire to have the wings of a dove in Psalm 55:6. And the reason for that is stated in the second line, where he tells us that he would fly away and be at rest. In Proverbs 3:2, wisdom will add length of life, but peace also will be added. The lazy are told to go to the ant in Proverbs 6:6, and the second line tells us that it is for the purpose of observing her ways and gaining wisdom. Proverbs presenting a certain series and then the addition of one are formulated to emphasize the last item. These are known as numerical proverbs. All lines are true, but it's the last line that formulates the point. Proverbs chapter 6, verses 16 through 19 offers a list of 6 things that the Lord hates, yea, 7 are an abomination to him. Now, all of them are true, but the 7th is the actual point. Spreading strife was the subject found back in verse 14 and led into this numerical proverb. The numerical expression becomes a formula, allowing the reader to associate that specific point with the other items that are to be viewed in the exact same light. Now, number 3, we have climactic or progressive parallelism. In climactic parallelism, a climax is built onto a preceding line or lines, and this is sometimes grouped as a form of the synthetic parallelism. The first verse of Psalm 1 is a classic example of this. How blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, nor stand in the path of sinners, nor sit in the seat of scoffers. Note the progression from walking to standing to sitting, which all builds to a climax, where error goes from simply associating with to actually engaging in evil. The Song of Deborah and Barak in Judges 5 contains a magnificent example of this form. Perhaps you've read verse 27 of that chapter and you thought, wow, that's really repetitious. Well, read it again. Read it with the song, and that verse, this time follow the repetition in verse 27 as it progresses naturally to the dramatic end of Israel's enemy. There he fell dead. That's what the entire song was rushing toward from the very beginning. In some way, the Lord had refined Israel, according to Isaiah 48:10, and the addition of a furnace of affliction explains how. Isaiah 66:3 uses 4 statements of useless action to build a climax toward the abomination of engaging in idolatry, which was the point to begin with. Now, the 4th form is antithetic parallelism. Here, the second line forms the antithesis. It's a contrast proposed to the thought of the previous line. Proverbs has many examples of this form, where the antithesis is usually presented by the second line beginning with the word but. A wise son makes a father glad, but a foolish son is a grief to his mother, Proverbs 10:1. There's really no distinction intended between the effect on the father and the mother. It's the variety of expression that keeps each line fresh. David speaks of being forsaken by his own parents in Psalm 27 and verse 10. In the next line, a contrast is established in the care given by the Lord. The point was not that his own parents had turned their backs on him. This is a good reason for us to understand this kind of language. Instead, David is amplifying the care of the Lord, making it so much greater that it was as if his parents had forsaken him. Hebrew poetry is really very, very powerful, and it's worth the effort to better understand it.